Hi, I'm Lizzie Stern. I'm the Literary Director at Playwrights Horizons, and this is In Process. Hi, Abe.
Hi, Lizzie.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be sitting down with you to talk about your play, Staff Meal.
I'm so delighted to be here.
So, the play.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it.
Staff Meal is a strange, surprising, funny play about a group of lonely people who gather in and around this unusual restaurant as the world splits apart and ends around them. Mm-hmm. It's a play that I think takes a lot of surprising turns. And so I like to think of it as a little bit of a roller coaster for the audience. You think you're going up, and then you take a turn, and then you go down, and then you go up, and you're delivered somewhere in the end that you may not have been expecting when you walked in.
Mm-hmm. And you wrote this play early 2020.
Yes, I was in a writer's group at the Lark, and I started this play in, I think, around January of 2020, and then finished it in April of 2020 or so. So you can sort of track that trajectory in the play. At the beginning of the play, there's a note of, this was the time of the pandemic, in case anyone forgot what happened that spring.
Wish we could forget.
So there's a note of foreboding at the beginning of the play where the characters hear something strange in the air, and the play has something of a kind of meet-cute romantic comedy beginning with two lonely singles meeting at a coffee shop, but it's sort of immediately made strange, and there's in the air, I think, from the very beginning of the play, a sense of kind of disquiet or unease that something is off in the world. And I was certainly beginning to feel that when I started the play. I mean, things have been off for quite some time in different ways, but the specific pandemic offness was in the air when I started the play, and by the time I finished it, we were in this new world that we all remember.
Mm-hmm. And as you were writing it, I feel like the play feels like it comes from the mind of somebody who was craving freedom. Mm-hmm. Because the imagination of its world and how it moves is so liberated and surprising and associative and organic. And I'm curious, during that time, when you finished it April 2020, did you revisit the play during the pandemic? Did you want to spend time in this world that was sort of very different from the kind of confining?
Yes.
Yeah.
Spending time in the world of Staff Meal was a huge release and a pleasure for me, because I think in my own writing, this is separate from the pandemic, in my own writing and in plays that I was reading and experiencing at the time, I was frustrated that things were feeling controlled and linear and like, this is in my own work, I felt like my characters in other writing I was doing at the time were like just there in service of the play. You know what I mean? Like I was using them to write a play. And so when I started this play, I gave up that idea and let the characters step on stage and tell their stories and be fully themselves. Mm-hmm. And I let the world of the play, the world of this very strange restaurant and the kind of dark, crumbling cityscape around it really open up to me, and I let myself explore it. And that freedom was scary as a writer, because I think oftentimes when you let yourself be that free, you lose the play. You can't collect the impulses at the end, and you get just kind of a free write. But for whatever reason, this play, that exploration started to collect meaning for me as it went on, instead of dissipating, which is usually what happens. So that is very exciting because you think, wow, I gave myself this freedom, and also I have a play that I love.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I think that the theatricality of it also feels really palpable in a way that, I will say, reading a lot of plays during the pandemic, when I read Staff Meal, it was so transporting and really took me out of the terrible situation that we all were in a way that really no other plays could do for me at the time. Yeah, and I think that's because it is so defiantly a play, and there are a lot of ways in which it's defiantly a play. One of those, I think, actually feels really connected to what you were saying before about what the play's about, loneliness and finding connection with people, and the kind of real intimacy of that was hard to find during the pandemic, but also, like, this isn't really a pandemic play.
Right.
It's really not. It's
right.
a play that I think is about everything that we were missing during that time.
Yeah.
That we all were craving and longing for, that we have now and can appreciate perhaps even more because we know what it's like not to have that, not to be able to go to a restaurant and sit with a friend across the table and have a really intimate and deep conversation. And I guess I'm curious to hear you talk a little bit about the kind of theatrical impulse of the play, both in terms of like the form itself, and then also what it's about, the content of it too.
I think all of my plays, whether the ones that seem a little more traditional or this one, which is not so traditional, I think, are about lonely people trying to connect in a world that makes it difficult for them to do so.
Yeah.
So I think that loneliness is at the heart of this play. All of the characters feel it. And the restaurant in the play is a fragile, warm cocoon where these people can come together and connect, I guess. And connect in a real way by talking about their lives and talking about ideas they have about the world that are sometimes odd, sometimes really specific and detailed and intricate. So the space of the restaurant allows this type of connection to happen. And within the world of the play, the restaurant itself is fragile, and the restaurant starts to break apart by the end of the play. So I was thinking a lot about spaces like restaurants, theaters, bookstores, where people can have a very particular type of interaction that is facilitated by that space that is like special and unique, and how those places can feel fragile sometimes. Like, I think about the Strand a lot, which is a place that I love and has felt fragile at times. As a place, I don't know what to say about it, just that it feels very important as an example of this type of space where you can have these unexpected connections, and that could really be gone at any moment, and it would be a huge loss to the city. So that's the content. The form, I don't know. I mean, since I started writing plays, I've written in two modes. One was a little more linear and straightforward, and I think my first two plays in New York were Kill Floor and Fulfillment Center, and those were much more linear in their telling. But I've always had much wilder theatrical impulses at the same time, and so I think to create a play that feels wilder is very satisfying for me. I'm not sure what else to say about the form.
I think that's pretty good. Yeah.
But yeah. I think. Yeah.
I think it's a play that really takes care of its audience, and it challenges its audience and challenges what the idea of a play can be. And it's also very gentle and very brings you into its world. It's not trying to alienate you.
Right.
And it's not solemn, and it's not farcical.
Right.
It's tender, warm-hearted, very, very funny. For a play that's about darkness and loneliness, this is a really funny play. And I'm thinking about, I just listened to this interview with, do you know Esther Perel? I love her kind of too much, but she just did an interesting interview with Trevor Noah that I was listening to. And in it, they talked about humor, and humor being the closest thing to physical touch that humans can have together. So can you talk a little bit about humor in the play, how it functions for you, and yeah, that sensibility?
Humor is essential to the play. If I start writing a play and it's not funny, I just abandon ship. It's especially essential at the beginning. I think hopefully the play is funny throughout in various ways, but it's especially essential at the beginning of the play because it opens an audience up, it allows them to relax, it sort of gets everyone in the audience on the same page, and allows people to relax into the experience and be open to receiving whatever comes next in the play. And I think, especially for a play that has a lot of deep feeling in it, I think this play is very meaningful to me. I hope that audience members will come to see the play, will connect with different emotions that are present in the play. But it has to be funny throughout, or it can just get too heavy and solemn, and I just don't like that as an audience member or a writer. And so I think this play, at its best, has a kind of lightness that allows us to jump from one space to the next without feeling too weighed down.
Yeah, it's very freeing. Humor is a very freeing thing. And I think that carries a lot of the liberated spirit of the play is in that humor.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Keeping it buoyant.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but also that allows people to even feel more deeply. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the world is funny, and it's so horrible too, and
totally
wonderful, and like those things are all present in the play at the same time. There's a long monologue at the end that I think will be both funny and sad and horrible at the same time. And that's a challenge in creating the play, how to find that balance, but that's sort of reflects my experience of the world, and so that's present throughout the play.
Yeah, so let's talk about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Because part of what we're talking about is tone.
Mm-hmm.
And tone is a tricky thing to pin down in general, but I think especially in this play because it's so complicated and particular.
Mm-hmm.
So Morgan Green is your amazing director.
Yeah.
And I think Morgan is very brilliant with tone in particular. She's amazing at a lot of things, but I think one of her gifts is understanding the tone of a play and bringing that to life in 3 dimensions in a room. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious how that collaboration has been. You just started rehearsals last week. Yeah. How's it been going, and what have you been discovering?
It's been amazing. Morgan is very collaborative in the room. She seeks ideas from everyone who's in the room, and we have a bunch of really smart actors who are engaged in helping to make the play and find the tone, and that's really fun. The tone of the play is it's an interesting thing to find because it is a strange play, but I think if you lean into the strangeness or the quirkiness or the weirdness of it, then it allows us to hold ourselves at a distance from it, and it becomes just farcical or something. I don't know what the right word for it is. Not good.
Bad.
It is basically bad. But if it becomes too somber and realistic, then you're also not capturing the unusual aspects of the play. So it's like a mixture of realism with some really heightened, odd things running through it at the same time. I don't think we have quite a word for what the tone of the play is, and I think it's a balance that we're all finding as we're in the room together by just saying, well, that doesn't feel quite right, let's try this, that's good, lean more into that. Mm-hmm.
Experimenting.
Yeah.
Process of elimination,
yeah, and it's a challenge, it really is.
And you're working with designers.
Yes.
Brilliant designers.
Amazing designers.
Can you talk a little bit about the set design and how that functions?
Yeah. So the set design, when we started, we knew it needed to do 2 things. It needed to create this kind of warm, inviting restaurant space, and also it needed to create the world of the play, which is shifting and changing around these characters as they move through it. So the design, I won't give it all away, but I will just say that it shifts and changes over the course of the play, and you have this sense at times of not quite knowing where you are in space as things move around you. And even the restaurant, which is sort of a fixed space, also changes its character and its nature. I knew I wanted a design that was both minimalist and very theatrical, and I think that's what we're achieving. So I'm excited about the set design. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about the set too is it's constantly transforming itself.
Yeah,
and that's, I think, a lot of what the play is about too, is about transformation and change. And without spoiling anything, because I do actually think this play has a lot of spoilers in it, and we don't want to ruin it for anyone. But transformation feels really central to one of the theatrical devices in the play, like a conceit around one of the characters in particular.
Yeah. You have one character in the play who's able to transform into different people, essentially.
Yeah.
And that idea, that's one of the ideas that's central to the play, is that we can go through many transformations as people. We're not necessarily, there's a lightness to personal identity, I think, in the play that is an idea that I was exploring and that I believe in.
Yeah, definitely.
And also that people can come to understand, in spite of external identity differences, people can come to understand each other quite well, actually, with the right spirit of empathy and understanding and willingness to try and inhabit someone else's experience.
Yeah, which is all feels connected to the question too of its theatricality and the analog nature of this form. And we're in this world that is so heavily digitized, obviously, and the ways that we connect are so often very disconnected. And there's a perception of just that it feels like there's a meaningful thing that's happening in an exchange online, and it really is actually a very lonely exchange.
Right.
And being able to be in a space with an audience and fostering a very different, more profound and lasting kind of connection feels very much to the spirit of the play. And so I'm curious about sharing this with an audience and what that exchange is like. What are you excited about that? What are you maybe nervous about that?
I mean, I'm very excited for people to go on the ride and the journey of this play, and for them to surrender to the experience of what the play is doing. I think, what am I nervous about? I think, the play is kind of like a piece of music. It's kind of associative in the way ideas move and in the way that the characters move through the journey of the play. And I hope that we're able to create an invitation early in the play that allows people to kind of breathe into it and surrender in a good way into what is happening. I think we'll do that by making sure it's funny, and I hope we're successful in that.
I think you will be.
I think we will be.
We love this play so much, and we can't wait to share it with you.